You are listening to the Music Mondays with Mazement podcast. You can find this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. For more information, go to musicmondayspodcast.com. In this episode, I'm going to share some exciting news as well as introduce you to an all-new artist on call. Don't go anywhere. Here it is. What's going on? This is another episode of the Music Mondays with Mazement podcast. I am your host. And as stated in this episode, I have some exciting news as well as some other exciting things in this episode. So don't go anywhere. First up, here's a fact.
Music Mondays, music facts.
The genre Screamo was first developed in the 1990s.
Music Mondays, music facts.
The first piece of news that I thought was interesting is that Eminem is officially opening up a Mom's Spaghetti restaurant in Detroit. It's opening up on 2131 Woodard Avenue, I believe, on Wednesday, the September 29th. I thought it was hilarious because it's like one lyric that he said in a song is now becoming an actual thing. As I'm sure you've heard the song, the restaurant is themed around the one line. He had a few pop-ups, one at the Shelter, I believe, in 2017-ish, which was the freestyle grounds where, I mean, if you watch 8 Mile, it's in there. I think it was to promote his album Revival at the time. He had a little Mom Spaghetti pop-up there. He also served it to healthcare workers during the pandemic, just different spaghetti dishes or whatever. But I guess the restaurant's going to offer spaghetti with meatballs, spaghetti without meatballs, spaghetti sandwiches, like all sorts of forms of spaghetti. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty interesting that he was able to do that and make it a thing. After not performing together in a few years, Red Hot Chili Peppers are now launching a tour starting in June 2022. So stay tuned for that. I believe it's the first time they toured with the original guitarist that they have in like 15 years because he left the band for like a stint. But either way, they're going back on tour. The tour itself is set to be a global stadium tour. So make sure you got your money on standby, ready to get tickets. I know I'm going to be looking into it. They're definitely one of the greatest bands of my time. Look into that if you're interested. Nipsey Hussle's alleged killer, Eric R. Holder Jr., is facing trial in January. I brought this up. It was kind of like a personal find I found because I'm like, these like a few rappers in our time have been, shot and nothing's been said of it. I mean, think back Tupac and Biggie or whatever. So many unsolved murders. But Nipsey Hussle was one where I'm like, okay, it was broad daylight. How do they not know who shot him or whatever? But luckily, hopefully, I don't know, they could put the case to rest. They, bring justice to the whole case. So Nipsey Hussle's family and friends can be at peace. But Eric R. Holder is facing trial. He is the alleged killer. Supposedly he was off his meds or something that day. I don't know. Not gonna say anything, but yeah, he's going to trial in January 2022. Time to get technical. If you're a producer, engineer, artist, and you're a fan of Vocaline, I mean, I'm a huge fan of it. It saved me on so many sessions. Synchrony Arts is coming out with Vocaline 5. It does feature a few new things that there's like a tightness feature now that tightens it up a little bit for you. I think there's a smart align thing. It's always I feel like it's always had some sort of smart align tool there anyways, but so it's that. And I guess visually now it's going to be easier to navigate through the waveform and match them up. So Vocaline 5 is actually available now, and I think you can get it for as low as $99 in the US. But check it out. I know I am. I need to upgrade. I think I have like Vocaline 1 or 2 still that I'm just messing with and it's working. So this next one actually interested me because I guess if you're an artist and you release an album that doesn't sound as good as anticipated, this next thing is what you come out with after that. and it's the Donda stem player. Kanye West created this new gadget to be able to customize any sound that runs through it. I mean, if you didn't like Donda, you could play it through this device and customize it to make it sound a lot better. I know that's something that if I have time to do it, I'm going to give it a shot. I don't know if I'm going to buy the thing. I think it's kind of, we'll see where it goes. But wow, if that's not a sign of something, I don't know what is. The final item I want to bring up is the MPC Studio. It should be available now, I believe, and you can get it for as low as $270. But the reason I brought it up is because it's an MPC. If you're a producer, beat maker, you know what an MPC is. This one's more intuitive, and it actually has more of a digital interface for you, I think, more than MPCs ever have. So it caught my attention. I saw a little bit of the demo, and they were messing with some of the sounds, customizing stuff, and then going back to the pad. Reminded me a lot of what Machine or Native Instruments doing with Machine. MPC users out there, this is definitely something you want to get your hands on. Like I said, it's around $270, and I believe it's available everywhere now. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, go check that out. So as stated in the intro, there is some exciting news. I hinted at it a few months ago. Throughout the past few months, I think I've been mentioning stuff. But and if you've been paying attention to my press online or anything like that, you would see that Real East Duo, my group, is releasing our debut single, Something New. It's actually coming out tomorrow on all digital streaming platforms. You can find it everywhere. Let me know what you think. I really need your opinion on this one. I changed up my style totally, came in with my high tone, totally different flow, and I love this one. There's so many tracks that I've released in the past that I haven't really been sure on if I was like a fan of it. I was like, this one's kind of cool. I did something a little different with it. Let me throw it out there, here and there, different tracks. But this one I'm set on. I love it. Can't wait for you to hear it. Can't wait to hear what you think of it. But yeah, it'll be available tomorrow by Real East Duo. Find it everywhere. You can feel free to send me a message on socials, facebook.com/Mazement Music or /Real East Duo, or hit us up in the email, realeastduo@rizeupent.net. Hit us up there, or, like us everywhere, subscribe on YouTube, wherever you find us. There is a bonus episode for Something New. Since there was a few other people involved with this project, I wanted to do something special. So that's still to come. It's going to come out hopefully within the next few weeks, definitely before the next episode. If it does happen, it'll be before the next episode. So stay tuned on that. Bonus episode, give you an inside look on the creation process and what inspired it and everything like that. And I've also done a few interviews recently to promote it as well, and a few others that you can find on socials as well. So check it out. Something New featuring JOY from Germany. I think you're going to love this one by the Real East Duo. And in the spirit of something new, today's artist on call is definitely something new for me. I have never been a huge fan of screamo music or metal or whatever. I listen to different artists here and there. Like, I always thought Metallica and bands like them were talented. Don't get me wrong. And like country music, the same type of opinion. I wasn't a fan of it, but I knew why it was popular. There was talent behind it. So screamo wasn't my thing. But then when I'm, going through these submissions that I get for artists on call, this band popped up and they changed it up so much. Every song was so different. And I'm sure you're going to hear me say that 5 different times. And when I talk to Jason Mitchell, their bass guitarist, and this artist on call, but you wouldn't believe how diverse their sound is. And I love what they're doing. I love the direction they're taking it. So in today's artist on call, I have the pleasure of speaking with Jason Mitchell, their bass guitarist. It's the Lowdown Dirty Band from Virginia. If you're a rock fan, I think you're going to love this one. And then we're going to come right back and close out the episode. But that being said, here it is, an all new artist on call.
Artist on call. Artist on call.
This is Jason Mitchell from the Lowdown Dirty Band. You guys are out of Virginia, right?
Yeah, we're from Martinsville, Virginia. You probably only heard about it because of a racetrack.
Oh, I mean, what else is in Virginia? I'm trying to think. I'm like,
nothing. We're just Washington's coat pocket.
Right. Yeah. Dude, I don't know. You have Virginia Beach though. I mean, Virginia Beach
Okay.
is pretty dope. I will say that. How long have you guys been, working together on music?
So actually, me, the singer, and the guitarist, Jordan Scott, we've been together since we were 15. I'm currently 33 years old, so we've been playing for 18 years together since we basically came up together, learned it all together. Rob, our drummer, he is my little brother's best friend growing up. I would jam with them, like I get on the bass, they were in drum line, all kinds of rhythmic percussion stuff, and we would just jam out. My dad was a soul guitarist back in the day for a band called Juice, and they used to just they were like the backup band for like when Teddy Pendergrass would come around, old soul singers would come around, and that was the band they'd pay to come out and play the songs. So we kind of grew up with that around in the house. So we're all very rhythmic and percussive. So yeah, I met Rob when he was really young. Years went by, we had different drummers over the time. But we hooked up with Rob in the middle of 2020 last year when everybody kind of had to pause and take a break from everything. And we just said, hey, let's see what happens when we build together. And I think that you can kind of hear it. Like you hear those three guys who've been making rock music for a long time, and then you hear this like rhythmic thing that just comes in and changes the whole game up.
Dude, and you could hear it, especially like we were talking a little bit before the interview about your guys' diversity, how you switch it up every freaking song. Like I'm like, I didn't expect this to happen. Like, what the heck? That last song did this. Like, but like even the drummer itself, like, is it Rob the drummer? Yeah. So like Rob's way of drum, like certain songs, like even on your last release in 2019, I listened to a few of those, and like one of the songs, like the drumming, like caught me right off guard. As soon as the song started, I'm like, dude, I've never heard a song start this way with the drums like that. It was like crazy. And you got kind of like certain songs, like even Watts has kind of like a ska twist to it, and like makes you groove a little bit. And it's like, dude, I was just listening to like freaking Screamo one track ago, and now I'm hearing ska. Like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, man. Like I said, we can't really help it. Like when me and Rob get in a room, some funk's going to happen somewhere, and it's going to blend in. So it's been a great year with the shows that we have played. We got a lot of feedback as a rhythm section. So I just love hearing those kinds of comments because he's definitely the most fun guy I've ever played with.
Dude, and just to be specific, the song I was referring to on your last release was Undergrowth with the drums.
Yeah.
The drums, how it opens up like that. I was like, wow. I was like, that's crazy.
Thank you, man.
No problem. And how long has he been drumming for? Like his whole life, or?
Yeah, basically since he was like 5, probably. A lot of it came up in church.
Okay.
Just playing drums every Sunday. He still does to this day. He stays in that whole realm. And I mean, it's amazing. It's really what flavors him at the end of the day is you have that gospel vibe. And I don't know if you know a lot about drumming, but some of the best in the world come from the gospel realm. So trying to think of some names off the top of my head. Thomas Pridgen, a guy like that. Yeah, that's kind of the world that they come from. And you can certainly hear it. Like, it's nothing to hear Rob kind of get to step in the middle of the song,
Well, what I like about it too is you guys seem to like, you could tell it's like stuff either improvised on the spot or it's right from the heart. It's what you guys want to do. You're not following any format. You're not listening to mainstream radio and say, oh, I got to sound like so-and-so. And like, you can hear that on these songs. It's so authentic.
Thank you. I think that's kind of part of it is we're like, we're so underground, and then, we'll go get that new Drake record. You know what I'm saying? There's just no middle ground. So it's just this weird connect.
Right. No, and as a lyricist myself, like I look at bands like Rage Against the Machine, like, Linkin Park, these were songs that like Linkin Park was one of my influences, like Mike Shinoda for rapping, so like when I listen to that stuff and I come up on that stuff, 90s rock was like my stuff. I'm only 2 years younger than you. And the like coming up on that stuff, and then I heard your guys' stuff, and each song I couldn't even tell you who you guys sound like because each song, it would be a different artist. I'd be like, oh my God, like Avenged Sevenfold, something like that would be on this one. And then the next one I go over, it'd be like Rage Against the Machine. And I go down the list. I'm like, usually I can come up with like 1 or 2 comps for every artist I talk to. Like you guys got like freaking 100, and it's not even like you could pin it down on one and say you sound like them. It's just because you guys got your own sound.
Yeah, I mean, we like, okay, I love that. Thank you so much. We try, what we really try to do is just put it all around Jordan. Let the vocals be the sound, I guess. Like you can follow the singer.
Yeah.
He's going to get you through the record, but yeah, we're going to take twists and turns. Scott and I are just entirely too ADD to stay in one lane, and Rob just encourages all of it. So,
dude, I mean, that kind of goes in hand. Like, let's just say, you guys are getting a lot of attention on songs, anyways. Like what was it, Private Dancer?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Private Dancer went over well.
So Private Dancer, like that one, songs like that got a lot of attention. What do you think it was about that song that drew so much attention to it?
I think it was just like it had the pop element, like it had the songwriting element that you look for, bridge, verse, bridge, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus. It had that, and it had a lot. But it was sexy and it was heavy at the same time,
right.
But it still had that pop appeal. And a lot of people will call it just that. They'll say it's just pop, but for us, we're just trying to respect like the songwriting. We just want to make sure, like, no matter how crazy we get about it, it's still a song at the end of the day.
Now, tell me a little bit about what inspired you guys to do the EP. What was the, thought process behind that?
So that was COVID, man. That was 2020. That was like, okay, here we are. It's crazy, man. Like, we actually got Rob in the middle of 2020. So that first record, that was a different drummer with us. It was, and we had just separated with him, like maybe a month before we met Rob.
Oh, wow. And, so that song I mentioned was a different drummer then.
Undergrowth was a different drummer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
But we just went into the studio. We have an amazing producer. His name is Jamie King. Nice. He's Grammy nominated for Between the Buried and Me's work on an album called Colors. He's one of the greatest producers, period. I mean, I'm wearing another one of his band's beanies right now. Like, I love everything the guy touches. So we're grateful to work with this guy. And we went in and actually redid Rancor with Rob. So look for that to release in a month or so. We'll probably call it Robcore. But I think you'll see the grooves are even more.
Dude, I could believe it. I could believe it. Like, we're gonna get into the new EP, but just hearing that, like I said, the drumming on Watts, the song that, like, because there was a few songs on the EP that stuck out to me, but like Watts was one of them, just because I had a groovy feel. I was like, dude, this drummer's sick. So I could tell right off the bat, and just the diversity in between each song with the drummer and you guys in general, you could tell the talents there. It's not just some, artificial, front. There's no plugins that can do that in a recording studio, Thank you. No, 100%. Like, that's dope as hell. And the album we're talking about that came out in 2019 by the Lowdown Dirty is called Rancor. You got to go check it out. But also this new EP. So this was totally inspired by the pandemic itself, and I guess in a way that kind of explains the diversity that's involved in it. Tell me a little bit about the song Shine.
So Shine is kind of at the heart of it all, because us essential workers, we had to get up and we had to put a smile on every day, if no matter how we felt about it. And I think that that's literally the essence of Shine. Like, by the time that we had figured that song out, because I will tell you, a lot of times when it comes to a rock band, the easiest, poppiest stuff is the hardest thing to figure out as a group. But once we had gotten that song down, I think Jordan was in a place, right before we went in to record it, early 2021. So he'd been through the whole year, and he had just been so beaten down. And it was amazing because, Jordan is a classically trained singer. He was opera Roanoke. He's got a huge voice, huge range. He's amazing what he does. It's not abnormal to hear him come out with a great, melody, and we'll all get really hype about it, but we weren't really sure what the lyrics were going to be. And once it came down, it was the last song written before we went in to record it. And we actually stood back and listened to it. Like, it was a guy who went through an entire year of everyone hates everybody, and everything's just so vicious and visceral, and like, we're out here and the air's on fire, and this dude's just like, I get up and I pretend I'm okay. And that's what Shine's about,
And I mentioned that song because we're going to get into that song. Like I said, there was a few songs that stuck out to me on the EP. All of them are dope as hell, but I always have to pick a few that are tops for me. And for me, it was Watts and Shine. So we're going to get right into Shine quick so you guys can hear this. And then we're going to get right back into it with the bass guitarist of this band, Jason Mitchell. Here it is.
Give me time to shine. I've been trying my whole life. I'm just fine, just time. Want to just lay down and lie. I'm hanging on by threads with insecurities inside my head. Can't keep living like I'm already dead. Let's have some fun with my depression, and if I never have to see my face again, that'd be alright. And if I ever had to do it all again, no, that's alright. It's taking everything I have to make it out of this. Getting an effort to feel something good again. But if I never have to look at myself again, that'd be alright. Give me time to shine. Won't you show me more to life? I won't stand aside. So I force myself to find something worth all of the stress that I put myself through about just every time. Breathe out all the trouble I felt while making out all the good times. And if I never have to see my face again, that'd be alright. And if I ever had to do it all again, no, that's alright. It's taking everything I have to make it out of this. Getting an effort to feel something good again. But if I never have to look at myself again, that'd be alright. But if I never have to see my face again, that'd be alright. And if I never have to do it all again, that'd be alright. And if I never have to see my face again, that'd be alright. And if I ever had to do it all again, no, that's alright. It's taking everything I have to make it out of this. Getting an effort to feel something good again. But if I never have to look at myself again, that'd be alright.
That was Shine by the Lowdown Dirty, now available on all streaming platforms. You can find that on Spotify, and every single one where you listen to music. That is the Lowdown Dirty EP. That's off the Lowdown Dirty EP. That was dope. And
Thank you, brother.
dude, I'm surprised how much different it sounds in the studio because I listen to it. I usually don't listen to like the music I'm going to listen to on the podcast beforehand, but this was an accident because I didn't know what song you sent me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I was streaming a few songs and like I listened to that and it sounds totally different in the studio in like a good way. Like I did not, like you mentioned, like that pop feel. I didn't get that in my truck, but like now when I heard it here, I was like, oh my God, 100%. Like,
right.
and like it just drew a million questions once I heard that because I'm like, dude, the song before this on the EP is totally different than this. How the hell did you get to this?
Yeah. So like, I guess the thought process really comes down to, well, first of all, we always want to do something new. We always want to like try to hit some new ground. So like, you know, you went through Rancor, you heard all that, really no pop stuff on that at all.
Right.
And then we get through this thing. Watts was kind of like in that world, but it still had plenty of rock vibes to it, a little progressive rock vibe to it. And so at some point, you know, most songs start with Scott, almost all of them. And he'll just sit down and kind of write like the grand idea for it. And then we'll all kind of come in and add our flavors and you get what you get. So he's always trying to like recreate himself. So at one point, you know, it was good. It was bound to happen that he would go, you know what, let me sit down. And like, you hear that initial melody that what kind of, it sounds like a hip hop beat, that womp, 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 womp.
That's the first thing I thought of was like EDM, like dubstep. I was like, dude, that's kind of sick.
It's his guitar. That's a guitar.
I thought that. I was thinking,
Yeah.
I was like, did he have like a pedal or something, like a foot pedal? That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, he makes all his own effects. He's got an Axe effects. So that it's a digital amplifier. You can kind of go in there and like make your own sounds and tones and then bring them with you. So yeah, he created that sound.
And then, well, and that like at first I thought it could have been the bass because I was like, oh,
right.
I was like, he's probably doing this with a pedal on the bass or something. And then like at like a minute 45, I heard like your little riff come in on bass. I was like, oh no, that's not him.
Yeah, that was one of the most challenging things ever because like he brought it to me, and I use a lot of synth stuff as well. And I think there's plenty of places like I'm in that people wouldn't think that was me. We definitely try to be sneaky like that. But when he brought that one to me, I'm like, I can't find a tone that matches this. I can't come up with a melody that like helps it. And he's the whole reason that I got so like slap happy with it, because the more that I tried to be, you know, basic and just try to help build the foundation of the song, the more that the sound of that bass guitar kind of, it didn't mesh well with his tone. And basically what I figured out was the only thing that sounds good on this is when I slap. So I might as well just go off.
Dude, it sounded dope. Like,
thank you.
And I think like you're saying a lot of the stuff is hidden. I'm sure that stuff comes out when you're performing live. People probably really experience it then. Like, oh, that was what that was. It's like they put two and two together.
Yeah, that's my favorite part of any show is when they come to me and go, you know, I never thought that was you. And, you know, yeah, I love that.
That's so sick. That's so sick. Yeah. Meanwhile, then you see like Jason Mitchell jump on the drums for a minute. It's like, whoa, I didn't even know they switched. When did they switch? Like,
that's the one thing I can't do. I wish I could do that, but they wouldn't want that.
Well, that's so dope to hear that it's like a collaborative effort too, because that was one thing I was wondering, you know, since it is such a diverse catalog, you know, how often is it collaborative? And I mean, you're saying it right now, it's every freaking song. Like, that's so cool. Now, like being every different song or being that every song is different one way or another from each other. Do you guys feel like this is your path moving forward, or do you feel like you're gonna do another album that's gonna be all like kind of calmer and you're gonna do another one that's scream, you know? What do you?
No, it's always gonna be a mixed bag. I hope that like we've talked about like different concepts to kind of make it make more sense, or you know, make it more marketable, or however you want to put it. Like just kind of put the fine writing in the air with it. Like, hey, you know, you're going to hear a lot of different stuff. So you might see more of that in the future. We might come up with concepts that kind of like call for it.
Right.
But right now, all up in the air. We haven't started writing yet.
The bonus to it is like from a label's perspective, at least you're releasing it this way on an EP, which is kind of sometimes considered a demo. But like on the bright side of that, now you could go any way you want. Like your next album could be totally, you know, calm and, you know, going into the winter, and then you could have a screamo in the summer, something like that. Like, and it would make sense because your EP was a little bit of both. Like it makes perfect sense. And I'm so
Right.
down for that. Like the diversity is what I'm, what I support 100%, because I feel like a lot of artists and a lot of bands are afraid to do what you guys are doing because they want to be marketable. They want to, do industry standard, which is, popcorn. It's like
Yeah.
nobody really wants that, so it's so dope that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, that's actually why we named the last song Industry Standard, just because it's just got that like dirty South, just mean vibe. And, Jordan's fuck you pay me, fuck you hate me, like he just, it really had a loose vibe. Like, you know what, take this for what it is. And most of the people like really vibe with it. You know, our real fans, when they come out, they're ready for that part, so yeah, you're absolutely right when you say like we're kind of trying to stick it to the industry standard. That's who we are.
Dude, it is funny too. Like the industry standard, like as soon as I heard that, I was like thinking like in sessions when you guys are recording these songs, do you do all the really loud ones consecutively and then go to the calm ones, or are you going like back to
And those albums are basically live. Like I said,
That's so crazy.
our producer's just so great at what he does that you can't tell it.
Yeah. I feel like I would have to be like 100% bipolar to sing like that. Like,
Yeah.
like it would have to be instant for me, like, because I'd have to get mad or something. Like, because when I hear screamo, I'm like, why are they so angry? I was like,
So yeah, there's definitely the angry vibe, but there's also this, where we're from the South, there's also this like party hell yeah vibe. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
you can kind of hear Jordan go from like hell yeah, we're here and we're up to I'm pissed.
True.
You can hear the difference as
it
goes.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, and that just the thing that amazes me too with his voice, how he can go from like total calm pop singing, to just like, and I'm like, oh my God, like most singers have to get like vocal freaking like surgery to do that. And he's just coming out with it like that.
Yeah. We grew up, grassroots. We were a lot heavier, I think, back in the day. And so he had to learn to do that. But then he got into Virginia Tech, and he was in, the choir there, and again, classically trained. So he went from being pure metal to this amazing singer. So yeah, it just makes sense at this point.
So tell me a little bit about Scott. Like, what's his history with the band?
So
like I know
Scott,
you guys said you went back, some years, but like how did he get into guitar and everything?
So Scott was the first one. Scott and I are a lot alike in the way that our dads kind of laid the foundation for us. His dad was, 80s rocker, shredding Van Halen and stuff. His grandpa was an amazing blues guitarist as well, is an amazing blues guitarist as well. And Scott was the first one to get me started. Like, I hadn't really put an electric instrument in my hand until I saw him do it. So basically, riding the school bus as kids, he was the guy with the guitar. And, I got curious. Jordan was trying to learn how to sing. And Jordan, his uncle, we all have family influences. Rob's dad was also a gospel musician. So all of us kind of are, not falling far from the tree. But Scott was the first one to go out and say, I'm going to learn how to play an instrument. And so Jordan naturally was like, well, I'm going to sing to these songs. I know these songs. And anyone who knows Jordan knows that he's also one of those guys that can mimic anyone, do any impersonation. So it started out like impersonating like, Metallica, James Hetfield, or impersonating Brandon Boyd from Incubus or whatever Scott was playing. And I would watch those two, and it just was like, hey, I got to be a part of this somehow. So Scott really was the beginning of it all. He really was the first one to say, let's do this. And again, like every song starts with him. He's really like the songwriter of the group. I consider myself to be more of like a complimentary artist. Rob definitely, Rob could do anything. Rob's next level talented. And Jordan, same deal. I think he and I do really well taking something in and just adding to it. And so, Scott, I can't talk enough about how amazing Scott's mind is when he's sitting down and he's trying to figure out what to do. And I mean, you can hear it in every song. Even if you don't like the song, from one song to the next, you can see how this guy's imagination is just enormous,
Right.
to cover the amount of tracks that he covers.
Well, and like you guys have been working together for so long, and like obviously if people look on like digital streaming platforms now, they'll see, you know, the 2 albums. Did you guys have a lot of releases and you just kind of pulled them off the shelf, or did you not really start releasing anything until recently?
So originally the band was called Class Action, and that was in our teenage years. We basically took a sabbatical. Trying to think of the year. Basically, when we started the Lowdown Dirty, we hadn't played together in almost a decade.
Oh, wow.
Everybody kind of went off on different directions. You know, Rob and had gone with my brother to Ohio. They're in Q Sticks up there. Halftime show for the Cleveland Cavaliers. If you haven't seen it, it's amazing. You got to see it.
I'm definitely going to see it now.
Yeah. Like I said, Jordan went on to Virginia Tech. I had a bunch of businesses I was running, still am to this day. And Scott went to the military.
Oh, wow.
So we all kind of went in different directions in our early 20s, and all kind of ended up back here by one coincidence or another.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And so when we all were like, hey, we're here, why not? And so we jumped right back in the saddle.
Dude, I always condone bands. Like I always promote them whenever I can, because it's great. Like I live in like the northwest corner of Connecticut. Like I'm right on the tri-state border of New York and Mass. It's like right there. And everywhere around here, bands can perform. Like breweries are popping up left and right everywhere. It doesn't matter what kind of band you are. I mean, you guys especially, you know, you could, I know like Jordan could walk into a room and they could say, play this, and you guys can all follow suit, play whatever. So like, I always like that about bands because they're so marketable. Where on the other hand, like hip hop artists, you know, certain sectors I am, but not at, you know, most breweries or whatever, because most people want to hear certain things. So like, I always promote the hell out of that. And that's so dope, especially on the front that you're saying you guys were totally living different lives, like across the world technically. And like, all of a sudden you just end up back in the same spot. Like that's like, it's like creepy in a way. It's like, how the hell did that happen?
It is very strange that it all happened the way it did, how it did.
Right. And like, so how did the Lowdown Dirty name come about?
So while Jordan was in Blacksburg at Virginia Tech, I had moved up there to run a couple businesses there in town, and we ended up being roommates. Just, you know, growing up together, is like, hey, you got a roommate? No. Well, I need a place to stay. So, you know, after time, eventually it was like, hey, you want to try to make a little music, especially because he was in music school. He needed to make a project. So I was like, you know, I grabbed a guitar because Scott was still enlisted, and I grabbed an acoustic guitar, and we just did a 2-piece acoustic guitar thing. And we were trying to come up with a name, and that was the one that came out that night for whatever reason. And we just clung to it. We were like, you know what? That's it. We're not letting it go. Because I'm gonna tell you what, the most aggravating thing ever to do is try to name your band.
Dude, you're not kidding. You're not kidding.
So once you get it, you're just like, screw it, to hell with it. I'm stuck with this. This is what it is, and don't think twice about it.
Well, and I think it fits you guys from an outside perspective. I think it's perfect in the sense that, like, at first glance, when I heard Lowdown Dirty, I'm like, okay, that could be a country band. You know, that could be like a really rustic country band. And then I listen, and I'm like, okay, like the heavy metal type vibe. I'm like, okay, that fits. And then you guys go into the ska stuff. I'm like, okay, that fits. It literally fits everything you do. And it's kind of like, once you hear all your songs, it makes total sense. You know, like I'm 100% behind that.
Thank you. And like, yeah, and like the deeper meaning behind it all is just like, when we were kids and we were like I said, we were in a band called Class Action. One of the things that we said we would always do, just kind of as like a little pact to ourselves, like we always said that no matter what we wrote, it would be about real life, what we're really experiencing. Like we were going to write songs from the heart. And that was another reason for the Lowdown Dirty, is because that's what we're giving you. We're giving you literally what's happening to us at that point in time. And so that's why when you asked about the EP, and I'm like, yeah, it's just COVID. It's like literally what we were living.
Just imagine if every band you heard on the radio right now was approaching music the same way you guys are, you know, in the present moment, not listening, you know, popcorn on the radio or whatever, and then like playing along with it, like really going from the heart in the moment. Like think about how true all music would be. You know, there would be, I mean, there probably still would be mumble rap, but it
Yeah.
probably it would have a whole different meaning than
Yeah.
than what it does, and like different bands like country music would be a lot better, it wouldn't be
Right.
so poppy as it is now, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's just kind of crazy to think like of why music needs to be the way it is when bands like what you guys do, not saying I want every band to be like the Lowdown Dirty because it's not possible, but
Right.
dude, it would be insane if it was.
I would love it. I would love it. I would have so much more fun.
Right.
And not, and you know what? And I will say this year has been awesome. Like everyone's releasing something this year. So
Yeah.
it has been a treat. That's the one good thing that we got out of the pandemic was everyone got a chance to sit down and just do a little writing and put something out. I don't know
Right.
about you, but
Oh, yeah.
2021 has been just nothing but releases from me.
Like I noticed you guys have released, 2 consecutive albums within 2 years from each other. Now, are you guys ever going to take the single route and try that, or are you always going to do albums?
I hope so. Yeah, I'd like to try to explore that a little bit more. But we also, it's habitual right now. We just once we get to writing, like we're stuck in writing mode for a little bit. So
Right.
we're definitely going to have to like evolve in the way that we do things and be happy making a single, then working on it. I see the way that the industry is doing it. I don't disagree with it. Attention spans are really low today. So no, I would love to see us go in that direction. We've definitely talked about it.
Right. Well, and I think the EP is a perfect length. Speaking
Yeah.
of, attention spans, I'm the same way. Even with like I give hip hop albums bad reviews if they're 20 songs. Like Donda,
Yeah.
like Donda for me is garbage, because I'm like, dude, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna sit there and listen to all those songs,
No.
Like there was like 1 or 2 on the album and I didn't even really want to listen to the whole thing, but I had to in order to hear those.
To hear the two, yep.
Yeah, exactly. But like otherwise, like the single route, the one way I would recommend it to anybody is because, like, again, from a label's perspective, is you encourage the artist to build up so many songs. Like you guys are in writing mode, write 100 songs right now, write them
Right.
all, and then, over the next 3 years, you could be releasing one by one or do an album here and there and then you have it all planned out. It's like, I guess as an artist, it's less stressful because I don't have to focus so much on the, business logistics or anything like that because all the songs are planned out already.
Right.
So that would be the only catch. That would be the only positive thing I think I see about singles. But like, I'm with you. I mean, if you're in writing mode and you want to write up 100 songs, you got to get the whole album out. Why not? Especially if they all have the same feel.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing, you can see like the general vibe because like I said, it all starts with Scott. So if he's vibing in one particular way, I'm probably vibing in one particular way. And then you just kind of see like the overlay, even though the music's different, it's still coming from an emotional place. So you kind of you hear the differences.
You yourself, why bass? Why did bass ever come up? Like you said, you were playing acoustic earlier on. What made you switch over to just do a bass?
So the reason for me playing bass in the beginning was simply just because, like I said, like when I first met Scott and Jordan, Scott was playing guitar, and I'm like, quickest way to a band is if I get on this bass right here. So so I jumped in it originally just to be a part of it, and the more I played and looked around and learned, like I said, my dad was in a soul band when I was a kid. He's always been like a soul, R&B, blues, jazz guitarist. He would bring around, different musicians. And early on, I remember one of his bass players used to always play with me when I was a kid. And, I remember thinking it was so cool the way he would slap and pluck and stuff. And as I picked it up and got better and better at it, I was like naturally interested. I want to see what he did. So I think the fact that he was like not like your metal guitarist or rock guitarist or any of that, whereas a lot of the other guys around me, that was their, whether it was their father, uncle, grandfather, whatever, that was what they looked up to. Where I had a dad who was who had some groove and a little sauce to him.
Yeah.
That was easier for me, just like my brother getting into drums. It was easier for us to be like, oh no, we want to be over here. So we would learn more of that kind of stuff. And I can remember like early on playing heavy metal with the guys because I do enjoy listening to it. But like practice was nothing but just like double thumbing and plucking and, and then we got into jazz and I was lost from there. I definitely enjoy playing guitar. But the bass is my most natural instrument. I just feel right at home on it.
And especially the adaptability that you said, you like if I want to be a part of this band, like that's some passion right there. You're like, I gotta make this happen. I'll learn whatever I gotta do, like that's so admirable. Now, like about inspirations, there must have been some inspiration behind like the bass when you did it. Would you say, was it the, classical route that you got inspiration from, or was it more, mainstream when you started?
Oh, so when I started, it was okay. So my very first bass player, like God or whatever, my very first guy I really looked up to was a bass player for a band called Mudvayne.
Okay.
So like that was really early on. Like, I'm just taking this instrument. This guy is over here doing crazy stuff on it. So, it did start all rooted in metal. And I would see what that guy would do, and I would try to emulate him. And he was just this force. And the more I got into what he was doing, the more I was like, okay, what else is in metal? And then, learned about Metallica and just how incredible, the riffing was with those guys. And we really, Scott and I both, like, we hit the Metallica hard. Right. So I would say like the majority of our talent or whatever, like where our abilities come from was just cramming Metallica really early on. Like, we have to learn every song. We have to be as good as them. Like, this is the Mecca. And like I said, naturally, I started getting to more like what my dad was into, just kind of seeing, where I come from, my heritage and stuff like that. And then next thing you know, I'm, Jaco Pastorius, Big Band Jazz, Weather Report, Victor Wooten, Stanley Clark, a million other guys, Stu Hamm. One of the best bass players ever. He was Joe Satriani's bass player. Was one of the best. He's a teacher at Berkeley. Just one of the best guys I've ever seen do it. And yeah, so I just started studying these different guys and kind of gotten that more of like virtuosic, however you say that, field and realm. And needless to say, had to dial it way back and kind of service the song. But yeah. Once I really fell in love with it, man, it was just 0 to 60, like no slowing me down.
Well, and a lot of people don't realize the importance of bass in a rock band.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to play bass. I want to play electric. I want to play lead. I want to be lead singer, lead guitarist, whatever. Like, they don't realize without that bass, there's no freaking rhythm in the song, and like I learned it from a producer's standpoint, because I used to like starting out, I was like making beats when I was like 12 or whatever. And I would never put it in anything, I'd just be like, oh, it's more, I'm always been about drums. Like the bass, I was like, yeah, but then I would sense it when I would mix, and I'd be like, something's missing. It'd always be the bass. Now, luckily 20 years later, I got my shit together. And I know what a bass guitar is, but like a lot of it's overshadowed. I see it a lot with people nowadays that they don't understand the bass guitar and the talent that goes behind it. You're pretty much, along with the drummer, you're controlling that beat with the band. Dude, thank you so much for coming on. Like, I definitely appreciate your time, and I can't wait. Like, you're definitely a band. I can't wait to hear your next song or next project, because I'm like, who knows what route they're going to go, like which way they're going to go with it. So unpredictable.
Thank you. I can't wait to give it to you.
I appreciate it. So now, if you are looking for the Lowdown Dirty online, you can find them on Linktree/the Lowdown Dirty. Now, if you don't know anything about Linktree, that's linktr.ee/the Lowdown Dirty. You can find them on their website at thelowdowndirty.com. You got to follow these guys. They're definitely on their way to making some big moves, big time producers they're working with. I have no doubts in you guys at all, and I can't wait to see what you guys got coming out. Thanks again for coming on, man.
Thank you so much, brother.
The Lowdown Dirty band from Virginia. You got to go check them out. Got to check out their new EP. Such an awesome sound, such an awesome direction. Like I said before the interview, like I said, Release Duo single is coming out tomorrow, September 28th, 2021 on major digital streaming platforms. After that, there's some other exciting things in the works regarding this single and some other projects. So really follow us everywhere you want to be a part of this movement that we have going on right now, because this is the beginning. This is the first debut single we're coming out with. I don't want you to miss it out, and I love hearing feedback. That's pretty much it for this episode of the Music Mondays with Mazement podcast. Don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for all your support. And until next episode.